Lieutenant Daniel Warren moved slowly through the dense forest of planet DX-419, carefully placing each boot to avoid disturbing the undergrowth. His scanner hummed softly, analyzing soil samples as he worked. The trees here grew tall, with purple-tinged leaves that filtered the light of the planet's twin suns. "Control, I'm detecting unusual track patterns in Sector 7. Daniel reported into his comm device. "Nothing matching known species profiles." "Copy that, Warren," came Captain Martinez's bored voice. "Document and continue the survey. We've got another 12 sectors to cover before sundown." Daniel frowned at the dismissive tone. 3 weeks on this planet, and the crew of the Horizon had grown comfortable, perhaps too comfortable. He knelt to examine the tracks more closely. Whatever made them was heavy, with what appeared to be 4 limbs and claws, large ones. "I think we may have an apex predator situation," Daniel added, capturing images with his wrist device. "Said the same thing about those hopping lizards last week," chuckled Officer Peterson over the comm. "Turned out they ate fruit." Daniel switched off his comm with a sigh. The tracks led deeper into the forest, away from the established safe zone. Protocol dictated he should return to base. Instead, he adjusted his pack and followed the trail. The forest grew darker as he walked, the canopy thickening overhead. The tracks became clearer in the soft soil, each print nearly twice the size of his hand. Daniel's heart beat faster, but excitement outweighed his fear. This could be the discovery that made the mission worthwhile. A sound stopped him, a low, rumbling breath. Daniel froze, his hand hovering over his stun pistol. 20 feet ahead, partially hidden by massive fern-like plants, stood the most magnificent creature Daniel had ever seen. It was tall, at least 9 feet, with a muscular body covered in iridescent scales that shifted between deep blue and purple. Its head was angular, with intelligent yellow eyes that fixed directly on Daniel. Razor-sharp claws extended from powerful limbs, and a ridge of spines ran down its back. Daniel knew he should back away slowly. Every instinct screamed danger, yet the creature made no move to attack. It simply watched him, head tilted slightly as if curious. Slowly, Daniel reached into his pack and removed his ration bar. He unwrapped it, broke off a piece, and tossed it halfway between them. The creature's nostrils flared, scenting the air. "It's okay," Daniel said softly, knowing his words meant nothing to the beast, but hoping his tone might convey peace. "Just a little snack." With startling speed, the creature darted forward, snatched the food, and retreated. It sniffed the ration bar, then consumed it in one bite. Its yellow eyes returned to Daniel, more curious than before. Daniel broke off another piece, this time holding it out in his open palm. The creature approached cautiously, each step deliberate. Daniel's breath caught as it towered over him, close enough that he could feel its warm breath. With surprising gentleness, it plucked the food from his hand with clawed fingers. "You're something special, aren't you?" Daniel whispered. The creature made a chirping sound, then a series of clicks. It wasn't random noise. The pattern repeated too precisely. "You're trying to communicate," Daniel realized aloud. He mimicked the sounds as best he could. The creature's spines raised slightly, and it repeated the sequence, adding new sounds. When Daniel's comm crackled to life, the creature tensed. "Warren, report your position immediately," Captain Martinez demanded. The creature backed away, but didn't flee. "I'll be back," Daniel promised, though he knew the being couldn't understand him. "I'll call you Vex." As Daniel reluctantly turned back toward base, he glanced over his shoulder. Vex was following at a distance, moving silently through the underbrush. Daniel smiled. Protocol said he should report this immediately, but something told him this encounter was too important to risk having Vex captured or killed. For now, this would be his secret. He didn't know then that this moment would change human understanding of the galaxy forever. Captain Olivia Martinez paced the small conference room of the Horizon, her boots clicking sharply on the metal floor. The room's screens displayed images of strange tracks and partial sensor readings. "Lieutenant Warren, do you mean to tell me you followed unknown predator tracks alone, without backup?" she asked, her voice tight with controlled anger. Daniel stood at attention, his face carefully neutral. "Yes, Captain. I believe the scientific opportunity outweighed the risk. And yet you failed to document this supposed 9-foot predator. No images, no samples." She crossed her arms. "Convenient. My equipment malfunctioned when I tried to capture images," Daniel lied. "But I assure you, the creature is real and shows signs of advanced intelligence." Science Officer Kevin Phillips snorted from his seat at the table. "Intelligence in a predatory species. Warren, you know that contradicts everything we've documented across 17 systems." Daniel bit back his frustration. What if everything we think we know is wrong? "Enough," Captain Martinez said. "I want a full team assembled. If this creature exists, we'll capture it for proper study." "That's an order." After the meeting, Daniel slipped away from the base camp under the cover of dusk. He carried a pack of food samples and a basic translation device he had programmed with the sounds he remembered Vex making. The forest felt different at night. Bioluminescent plants cast a soft blue glow across the path. Daniel whistled a pattern he had practiced, hoping Vex would recognize it. Minutes passed. Then a shadow detached itself from the darkness. Vex approached cautiously, yellow eyes gleaming. "Hello again," Daniel said softly, offering food. Vex took it carefully, then made a series of clicks and chirps. The translation device captured the sounds but couldn't interpret them yet. For an hour, they exchanged simple communications. Daniel taught Vex words by pointing at objects, while Vex demonstrated hunting techniques and showed Daniel which plants were safe to eat. A branch snapped nearby. Daniel turned to see Kevin Phillips standing 10 feet away, his face a mixture of shock and anger. "I followed you," Kevin said, his hand moving toward his comm device. "Captain Martinez needs to know about this immediately." "Wait." Daniel moved between Kevin and Vex, who had gone completely still. "He's not dangerous. Look at him, Kevin. He could have killed me a dozen times, but he's curious about us. It's a predator, Warren. The most lethal-looking one we've ever encountered. He's intelligent. We can learn from each other." Kevin hesitated, his scientific curiosity battling with years of training. Suddenly, both their comms burst to life with emergency signals. "Base to all personnel. Equipment failure in Sector 4. 3 researchers trapped under collapsed shelter." Without hesitation, Daniel ran toward the base, with Kevin close behind. To both their surprise, Vex followed, moving swiftly through the forest. When they reached the accident site, 2 heavy shelter panels had collapsed, trapping researchers underneath. The rescue team struggled to lift the weight. Vex assessed the situation, then moved forward before Daniel could stop him. Several crew members reached for weapons, but Daniel shouted, "Wait! He's helping." With incredible strength, Vex lifted the heaviest panel while the humans pulled their colleagues to safety. When everyone was clear, Vex gently lowered the panel and stepped back. In the stunned silence that followed, Daniel turned to Captain Martinez. "Now do you believe me?" She stared at Vex, then at the rescued crew members. "I don't understand. Every predator species we've encountered has been hostile. Maybe we need to rethink what we know," Daniel suggested quietly. Kevin stepped forward. "Captain, I think Lieutenant Warren deserves a chance to explore this relationship further. Under supervision, of course." Martinez nodded slowly. "Agreed. But one sign of aggression, and we take the standard containment approach." As the crew returned to base, many cast wondering glances at Vex, who remained at the edge of the forest watching them. Everything they thought they knew about predatory species was being challenged, and Daniel knew this was just the beginning. The Horizon hummed with nervous energy as the Earth Command shuttle docked. Daniel watched from the observation deck as Commander Frank Bishop stepped aboard, followed by 6 heavily armed soldiers. Their black uniforms contrasted sharply with the science team's blue ones. "Lieutenant Warren," Captain Martinez said, "Commander Bishop has been briefed on your discovery." "Earth Command has concerns." Daniel noticed her careful wording. "What kind of concerns, Captain?" Before she could answer, Commander Bishop approached. He was tall with a hard face and cold eyes that had seen too many alien conflicts. "So you're the one who's been playing with the Predator," Bishop said, extending a hand. His grip was unnecessarily firm. "I've dealt with 6 Predator species across the galaxy. Not one could be reasoned with." "Vex is different," Daniel insisted. "He's shown intelligence and restraint." Bishop smiled without warmth. "We have orders to secure and study the creature. If it resists, we eliminate the threat." Daniel felt his stomach tighten. "Sir, with respect, that approach will destroy months of progress." "Your concerns are noted, Lieutenant." Bishop turned away, effectively dismissing him. Later that day, Daniel found communications specialist Allison Reed working on the translation program he had started. "Any luck?" he asked. Allison's fingers flew across the screen. "Some. Their language is complex, not just sounds but subtle body movements too. But look at this frequency pattern." She pointed to a wave display. "It suggests telepathic capabilities." Daniel leaned closer. "That would explain how quickly Vex learns." "Exactly. I think with more data." The door slid open and Kevin Phillips entered. "Bishop's team is setting traps throughout the forest. Heavy stun nets, pain compliance devices." Daniel stood quickly. "They'll see that as an attack." "It gets worse," Kevin added. "The scans show a dozen more Syrinx in the Eastern Valley. Bishop's calling them a nest." Daniel grabbed his field kit. "I need to warn Vex." "I'm coming with you," Allison said, downloading the translation program to a portable device. They slipped past the perimeter guards during shift change. The forest was quieter than usual, the native animals sensing the increased human activity. Daniel whistled the signal he used to call Vex. Minutes passed with no response. "Maybe he sensed the danger," Allison suggested. A rustle came from their right. Vex emerged, but his posture was different. Tense, alert. He made a series of rapid clicks. Allison activated her device. "He's saying something about others. Is, family, pack." Daniel approached slowly. "Vex, there are soldiers setting traps. They want to capture you and your pack." Vex's head tilted as he processed Daniel's words. He reached out one clawed hand and gently touched Daniel's forehead. A flood of images filled Daniel's mind. Younger Syrinx playing in a valley, adults teaching hunting techniques, the pack working together to maintain balance in the ecosystem by culling only the sick or old prey animals. When Vex withdrew his hand, Daniel gasped. "They're not just predators. They're caretakers. They manage the entire ecosystem." In the distance, a high-pitched cry echoed through the forest. Vex tensed, making urgent sounds. "One of his pack is in trouble," Allison translated, her face pale. Daniel didn't hesitate. "Show us." They ran through the forest, following Vex. They found a young Syrinx caught in a net, electricity pulsing through it. The creature writhed in pain. "We need to shut it down," Daniel said, examining the control locks. "Bishop's team will be here any minute," Allison warned. Daniel looked at Vex, whose eyes showed both fear and trust. In that moment, he made his choice. He grabbed a rock and smashed the control locks. The net powered down. As Vex freed the younger Syrinx, Daniel faced Allison. "I've just violated direct orders. I won't ask you to do the same." Allison stood straighter. Someone needs to tell the truth about these creatures. Behind them, Vex made a sound that needed no translation. It was gratitude, pure and simple, and it confirmed what Daniel already knew. He would protect these misunderstood beings, even if it meant defying everything he had been taught to believe. Daniel knew returning to base would mean immediate arrest. Instead, he and Allison followed Vex deeper into the forest, where the injured young Syrinx could recover safely. The forest grew denser, with strange luminescent fungi lighting their path in the growing darkness. "Where is he taking us?" Allison whispered. "I think to their home," Daniel replied. The path opened into a stunning valley hidden between steep cliffs. A waterfall cascaded down one side, feeding a clear pool. Around this natural sanctuary, Daniel saw dozens of Syrinx, some larger than Vex, others clearly juveniles playing along the water's edge. The Syrinx noticed their presence immediately. Many moved protectively toward the younger ones, while others approached with cautious curiosity. Vex made a series of complex sounds that echoed through the valley. The other Syrinx responded, their postures relaxing slightly. "He's telling them we helped," Allison said, checking her translation device. "He's calling us friends." An older, larger Syrinx with faded blue scales approached. Scars crossed its body, telling stories of many battles survived. It studied Daniel with intense yellow eyes, then slowly extended a clawed hand toward his forehead. Daniel hesitated, then nodded. The connection formed instantly, stronger than with Vex. This time, Daniel didn't just see images, he experienced memories. He felt himself running through the forest on 4 powerful limbs, smelled prey a mile away, sensed the heartbeats of small creatures hiding underground. He experienced the joy of the hunt, the satisfaction of a clean kill, and the responsibility of only taking what was needed. More surprisingly, he felt the Syrinx's memories of first human contact, their curiosity mixed with caution, their ancient stories of other beings from the stars who had once hunted Syrinx, almost to extinction. When the connection broke, Daniel fell to his knees, overwhelmed. "What happened?" Allison asked, helping him up. "They're telepathic, but it's more than that," Daniel gasped. "They share a collective consciousness. Everything one learns, they all know. That's why Vex learned our language so quickly." The elder Syrinx made a gesture, and 2 younger ones brought forward fruits and what appeared to be cooked meat. "I think we're being invited to dinner," Allison said with nervous laughter. As they ate, Daniel's communicator buzzed with an incoming transmission. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. "Warren, where are you?" It was Kevin Phillips, his voice urgent. "Bishop has captured 3 Syrinx. They're in the lab module." Daniel's blood ran cold. "What is he doing with them?" "Tests, painful ones. He's talking about their potential as weapons, their hunting abilities, their strength." The Syrinx around them grew still, their eyes fixed on Daniel. He realized they were listening through their telepathic connection, perhaps through him. "There's more," Kevin continued. "Bishop sent a report to Earth Command claiming the Syrinx attacked our people. He's requesting permission to eliminate the entire species." Vex approached Daniel, placing a clawed hand gently on his shoulder. Another vision filled Daniel's mind. Syrinx and humans working together, sharing knowledge, healing the distrust between predator species and others. When the vision faded, Daniel knew what he had to do. "Kevin, I need your help. And Captain Martinez's too, if she'll listen." "What's the plan?" Kevin asked. "We need to document everything. The Syrinx's intelligence, their role in the ecosystem, their peaceful intentions. Real evidence that contradicts Bishop's claims." Allison was already recording the scene around them with her device. "I can help with that." "And we need to free those captured Syrinx," Daniel added firmly. "That's treason," Kevin warned. "Maybe. Or maybe it's the first step towards something greater than human-centric exploration." As night fell over the valley, Daniel watched the Syrinx gather in a circle, their voices joining in what could only be described as song. The sound was haunting, beautiful, and utterly alien, yet somehow familiar to his human ears. Daniel realized he stood at a crossroads not just for himself, but potentially for all human-alien relations, The path ahead was dangerous, but for the first time since landing on this planet, he felt absolute certainty in his course. Daniel and Allison returned to the edge of the base under cover of darkness. They carried evidence, recordings, biological samples, and most importantly, the knowledge shared through their mental connection with the Cyrex. The security has doubled, Allison whispered, pointing at the guards patrolling the perimeter. Kevin said to meet him by the south airlock. Daniel replied, checking his watch. If he managed to convince Dr. Malone to join us, we might have a chance. They waited until the patrol passed, then darted across the open ground. The airlock hissed open just as they reached it, and Kevin pulled them inside. You made it, he said, relief evident in his voice. Dr. Malone is waiting in her lab. She's furious about what Bishop is doing to those creatures. Dr. Grace Malone was the ship's chief medical officer, respected by everyone on board, including Captain Martinez. When they entered her lab, she was examining tissue samples under a microscope. These beings are remarkable, she said without looking up. Their cellular structure suggests they evolved as apex predators, but their brain scans show complexity comparable to humans. What Bishop is doing isn't just unethical, it's criminal. We need to get to the captain, Daniel said. Show her everything we've learned. Dr. Malone finally looked up, her eyes serious. Captain Martinez has been sidelined. Bishop claimed emergency protocols gave him command authority when he reported the Cyrex as an imminent threat. That's a lie, Allison protested. Of course it is, Dr. Malone agreed. But his soldiers control the communications array. No one can send messages to Earth Command without his approval. Kevin moved to a computer terminal. We've been working on something. Martinez isn't as powerless as Bishop thinks. The screen showed security camera footage of the lab where the captured Cyrex were being held. 3 magnificent creatures were confined in energy fields, scientific instruments attached to their bodies. Bishop stood nearby, speaking to one of his soldiers. We need sound, Daniel said. Kevin tapped a few keys, and Bishop's voice filled the room. Their hunting abilities could revolutionize military operations. Imagine soldiers with these creatures' strength and tracking skills. Earth Command will give us whatever we ask for once they see the potential. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. We have to free them. And we will, said a new voice from the doorway. Captain Martinez stepped into the lab, her face grim. Bishop has exceeded his authority and violated at least 7 protocols for ethical treatment of sentient species. Daniel stared at her in surprise. You believe they're sentient? Dr. Malone showed me the brain scans, Martinez replied. And I've reviewed your earlier reports more carefully. I should have listened to you from the beginning, Lieutenant. What's the plan, Captain? Allison asked. Bishop controls communications and has most of the weapons, but this is still my ship, and half the crew remains loyal to me. Martinez activated a display showing the base layout. We need to create a diversion while a small team frees the captured Cyrex. Once they're free, the Cyrex outside can help us, Daniel said. At the captain's questioning look, he explained about the telepathic connection. For the next hour, they planned their rebellion. Crew members loyal to Martinez would disable power to non-essential systems, creating confusion. Dr. Malone would prepare medical evidence of the Cyrex's sentience. Kevin would work to restore independent communications with Earth Command. As dawn approached, Daniel stepped outside briefly to send a mental message to Vex. The connection was weaker at this distance, but he felt an acknowledgement. They know we're trying to help, he told the others when he returned. They'll be ready. Captain Martinez looked at each of them in turn. What we're doing carries serious risks. Bishop will call it mutiny. With respect, Captain, Daniel said, sometimes the right path isn't the one in the manual. Martinez almost smiled. Let's move out. We have 3 hours until Bishop's team expects to begin the next round of tests. As they prepared for their mission, Daniel felt a strange calmness. He had come to this planet as a scientist seeking new species. Now he was fighting for something much greater, a new understanding between humans and the beings they encountered among the stars. The plan began with a series of small explosions near the fuel storage area. They were controlled, designed to cause panic rather than damage. As alarms blared throughout the base, Bishop's soldiers rushed to secure what they believed was a sabotage attempt. "Now," Captain Martinez said through the secure comm channel. Daniel, Allison, and Dr. Malone moved quickly through the corridors toward the lab module. They wore standard science uniforms, hoping to blend in with the confusion. 2 guards remained at the lab entrance, looking nervous as the alarms continued. Dr. Malone approached them directly. "Commander Bishop needs these specimens moved immediately. The fire could reach this section." "We have no orders," one guard began. A violent tremor shook the building, cutting him off. This wasn't part of the plan. Daniel steadied himself against the wall as ceiling panels crashed down around them. "Earthquake," someone shouted from down the corridor. Dr. Malone took advantage of the distraction to inject both guards with sedatives. They collapsed almost instantly. "The planet's never shown seismic activity before," Allison said as they entered the lab. Inside, the 3 captive Syrics were still held in energy fields, but the equipment was flashing with warning lights as power fluctuated. Daniel rushed to the control panel. "We need to shut these fields down carefully," he explained. "Too quick, and the energy backlash could harm them." Another tremor, stronger than the first, rocked the lab. Equipment crashed to the floor, and a support beam cracked ominously. "Hurry," Dr. Malone urged, checking the Syrinx's vital signs. "These restraints are causing them pain." Daniel worked the controls, gradually reducing power to the energy fields. As they weakened, the largest Syrinx, clearly an elder, fixed its yellow eyes on Daniel. The mental connection formed instantly. Images flooded Daniel's mind. Massive creatures moving beneath the planet's crust, ancient guardians awakened by the Syrinx collective in response to the threat to their kind. "They caused the earthquake," Daniel gasped. "The Syrinx have awakened something below the surface." The energy fields flickered out completely. The freed Syrinx stretched their powerful limbs, but made no aggressive moves. The elder approached Daniel and touched his forehead gently with one claw. "Asterisk danger comes. All must leave asterisk." The mental message was clear. The tremors were just the beginning. Captain Martinez's voice crackled over the comm. "The eastern section has collapsed. We're evacuating all personnel." Daniel led the Syrinx out of the lab. In the corridor, they found chaos. Crew members running for escape shuttles, equipment scattered everywhere. "This way," Allison directed, pointing toward the nearest exit. Outside, the sky had darkened with strange clouds, and the ground continued to shake. Daniel saw Vex and a dozen other Syrinx emerge from the forest, moving to help humans trapped under fallen debris. Commander Bishop stood near a shuttle, barking orders to his soldiers. When he spotted the freed Syrinx, he drew his weapon. "Those are military assets," he shouted. Before anyone could respond, a massive section of the research facility collapsed. Bishop disappeared beneath the rubble with a scream. Without hesitation, the elder Syrinx bounded toward the collapse. Its powerful claws tore through metal and concrete like paper. Other Syrinx joined the effort, digging with incredible strength and precision. Within minutes, they pulled Bishop from the wreckage. He was injured but alive, staring in disbelief at the creatures he had planned to exploit. "Why?" he whispered as Dr. Malone treated his wounds. "Because they understand something you don't," Daniel answered. "Life, all life, has value." The ground shook again, more violently. "Asterisk, you must leave this place." Asterisk came the mental message from the elder Syrinx. "Asterisk, we will guide you to safety." Asterisk. As humans and Syrinx worked together to evacuate the base, Daniel felt the connection between them growing stronger. Through it flowed not just thoughts but emotions, concern, determination, and a growing sense of mutual respect. Captain Martinez approached Daniel, watching as Syrinx helped injured crew members board shuttles. "I've sent a priority message to Earth Command," she said. with actual footage of what happened here. They need to see the truth. Daniel nodded, feeling a strange mix of hope and uncertainty. The planet was becoming dangerous, but something remarkable had been born amidst the destruction, an understanding that might change everything. The Earth Command diplomatic vessel Concord entered orbit around DX 419 3 weeks after the evacuation. Daniel stood in the observation lounge of the temporary station, watching the sleek ship approach. Beside him, Vex remained perfectly still, only the slight movement of his chest showing he was breathing. "Are you nervous?" Daniel asked. Vex made a soft clicking sound that Daniel now understood meant amusement. Their mental connection had grown stronger every day, allowing communication that went beyond words. Asterisk. They fear what they do not understand. Asterisk came Vex's thought. Asteriskis did you at first asterisk. Captain Martinez entered the lounge, followed by Allison and Dr. Malone. The diplomatic team is ready to board. Admiral Wilson himself came to assess the situation. Daniel nodded. And Commander Bishop. Confined to quarters pending review of his actions, Martins replied. The evidence we presented was compelling. The seismic activity had stabilized after the evacuation, but large portions of the planet's surface had transformed. Ancient structures had risen from beneath the ground, remnants of a civilization far older than human space exploration. The Cyrex had revealed they were not just the apex predators of this world, but its appointed guardians, protecting knowledge left by beings who had visited the planet millions of years ago. The airlock hissed open, and Admiral Wilson entered, flanked by diplomats and scientists. He was older than Daniel expected, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Wilson stopped short at the sight of Vex. Despite being briefed, the reality of standing before the galaxy's most lethal predator was clearly startling. Admiral, Daniel said formally, may I present Vex, representative of the Cyrex Collective. To his credit, Wilson stepped forward and performed the greeting gesture Daniel had taught him. On behalf of Earth Command, I extend greetings and apologies for our misunderstanding. Vex lowered his head slightly and extended one clawed hand. Wilson hesitated only briefly before allowing the contact. The Admiral's eyes widened as the telepathic connection formed, brief but sufficient to convey peaceful intentions. Remarkable, Wilson whispered when the connection ended. The meeting moved to the conference room, where Daniel presented the complete findings of his research. Dr. Malone shared medical data proving the Cyrex's advanced neural capabilities. Allison demonstrated the progress in translating their complex language. These beings aren't just intelligent, Daniel explained. They're the caretakers of an entire ecosystem. They maintain balance, preserve knowledge, and protect this planet from exploitation. Admiral Wilson listened carefully. And these ancient structures, what do they contain? Daniel glanced at Vex before answering. Star maps, technical knowledge, and warnings about other species in our galaxy, some friendly, some not. The Cyrex are offering to share this knowledge, Captain Martinez added, in exchange for protection of their planet and recognition of their sovereignty. Wilson leaned back, considering. Commander Bishop's report suggested they were dangerous, unpredictable. With respect, Admiral, Daniel said, most predators become dangerous when cornered or threatened. We approached with capture devices and weapons. They responded with restraint. From across the table, Commander Bishop spoke for the first time since the meeting began. His arm was still in a sling from his injuries. They saved my life, he said quietly, when they had every reason to let me die. He looked directly at Vex. I was wrong. Completely wrong. The room fell silent. Bishop's admission carried weight. He had built his career on the belief that predator species could never be trusted. Admiral Wilson studied the reports before him. I'm prepared to recommend a permanent research outpost here, with joint human-Cyrex management and protected status for the planet. Daniel felt relief wash over him, matched by a wave of satisfaction from Vex through their connection. The formal meeting concluded, but Wilson asked Daniel to remain behind. "Lieutenant Warren, your actions violated numerous protocols," Wilson said gravely. Daniel straightened. "Yes, sir. Yet those violations have led to perhaps the most significant first contact success in human history." Wilson almost smiled. "Earth Command is creating a new position. Xenobiological ambassador. Someone who can bridge the gap between humans and species we've misunderstood. I'm offering you the role." Later, as the sun set over the transformed landscape, Daniel and Vex stood at the entrance to one of the ancient structures. Symbols glowed on the walls, telling stories of worlds beyond their galaxy. "Ready?" Daniel asked. Vex made the Cyrix gesture for affirmation. Asterisk, the path forward has never been walked before. Asterisk came his thought. Asterisk, we will discover it together. Asterisk.